Hello, hello, hello. This is the Line in Zion coming straight at you, unfiltered, untamed, here in the south of Israel. That's right, I'm here on the ground. Today is a momentous day, a day that will be remembered for a very long, 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 long time. 3 a.m., we were woken up by sirens, and our mobile phones were activated to let us know that we should be close to our shelters, home for command protocol. This was the beginning of a wave of attacks to take out the Iranian nuclear infrastructure. But they've done more than that. If you're not looking at the news, which would be really, really weird because this is the game changing stuff, Israel took out leadership, the chief of staff of the army. It took out the head of research. It took out scientists that are leading the charge in terms of building the nukes for them. They took out the head of the Revolutionary Guard, the ICRG. This is big time. And how did they do it? It's another beep beep. They literally had the Mossad put a drone launch pad in Tehran that simultaneously took out the leadership while the Air Force from above was taken out. From what we understand, Natanz is taken out. There is talk about Fordow, but we know that they had taken out some parts in Parchin, but this is going to be a few days. This is just the beginning. We're just getting open source intelligence right now. Netanyahu confirmed that this will be a few-day operation. In retaliation, Iran has already sent 100 drones. Israel has already taken out some of them. What has been the world's reaction? Well, not shockingly, you have a lot saying Israel's the aggressor. The Mullocracy, the jihadi death cult in Iran that's built a ring of proxies around Israel, have launched themselves hundreds of ballistic missiles who were working and coordinating and strategizing the October 7th attack, which we found intelligence in Gaza confirming that fact. But they are being aggressed as they try to race to build nuclear weapons, even though they have one of the largest energy reserves in the world. Okay. Sometimes you can't talk sense to people, especially those who like to vilify Jews. So we have Donald Trump and we have Marco Rubio both distancing themselves from the attack. They said they have not coordinated, nor will they coordinate the offensive operations that Israel is conducting right now. Trump did lay out, a hand in saying that America come to Israel's defense, but it will not participate in these attacks. So Israel is in it alone. All the glory to it. The home of the brave, land of the free, as they say. And Israel's doing the dirty work for all Western civilization. Because why? Israel's the little Satan. America's the great Satan. They've made it very clear, the Ayatollah and the Ayatollah before him and the presidents and a lot of these generals in their thug armies, terror armies, that Israel's a stepping stone. Okay, it's on the front lines. It's that little bastion of freedom in the Middle East that the only one that really exists that's a democracy. Once that's gone, you can expect the pushback to come to Eurabia. The UK says they will not defend taking out the drones that flying from Iran to Israel. That's not a surprise. These are governments run by feckless, anchorless, power-hungry political professionals. Carney and Starmer and Macron, they all got together. They've sanctioned a democratically elected member of the Israeli government in a time of war. Never has this actually been done. If you're going to choose to start sanctioning government folks, why would you start there? You could find 100 who actually do terrible damage that should deserve sanctions. So it's mind-boggling, the level of double standard. There is a unbelievable thirst to make Israel the villain, no matter what facts, no matter what GoPros, no matter how many millions of tons and tens of thousands of trucks, no matter how much documentation you provide them, the tunnels that are under schools and mosques that you find terrorist leaders in. You literally have charters saying they want to just kill Jews. It doesn't matter. You want the Jewish villain, just like you love that happy ending in the rom com. There is a deep desire to have the Jewish villain. There's something about it that just makes you your warms your heart, right? Well, who cares? That's the whole beautiful thing about Zionism. Creating your own state so Jews can defend Jews, not rely on anybody else to do it. Um, and that's what's happening right now. Netanyahu agreed to a 60-day window for Trump to try to effect a diplomatic solution. Yesterday was day 61. So this is not a surprise. The IAEA basically sent out a resolution, the first one in 20 years, saying Iran is not living up to its commitments. And Iran's response to this brazenly, arrogantly said, not only are we not going to stop doing this, we're going to enrich even more in a new facility. So they were like basically saying, come on, what are you going to do about it, Israel? Well, Israel took the bait. As of 3 a.m., they've launched a wave of attacks. They've decapitated parts of its leadership. They've taken out surface-to-air defenses. They've taken out some already Natanz, one of the major parts of the Iranian nuclear infrastructure, and I'm sure much more will come out. And they did it with drones that are coming in from their own capital city. I mean, how about them apples? Beep beep. What are we going to call this? What are we going to call this? I don't even know what we can call this. This is some crazy stuff. All I can say is that Israel is standing up to a country that by itself, for itself, but also for the civilized world. And we're going to see who's going to come out and support the David against this Goliath. Who? Where do you stand? When the history is written, which side did you stand on? How many times did we hear, if I was there with the Nazis were there, would I have been, what would I have done? Well, here's a moment. You got the jihadi death cult, mass murdering, mass kidnapping, mass raping supporters who basically financed, trained, and armed Hamas and planned the attack. And then basically had Hezbollah trying launching tens of thousands of rockets next day. And what did we see? It wasn't the 10-7 that really was the kicker. It was the 10, what happened the next day in academic bastions that had been proving grounds for Western leadership for centuries, came out supporting these death cults, marching for these death cults. You had capitals around the world showing very little sympathy. And since we are being applied rules of warfare that they don't apply to themselves, denial, creating narrative wars, you know, and no matter what Israel will say, no matter what Israel will do, it can't drown out 50 plus Muslim states, 1.8 billion Muslims that not all of them are, you know, anti-Israel, but let's say a very big majority. There is a big anti-Semitic problem in the Arab world, and there is consensus around Zionism when it comes there. I dare anybody to wear a kippah and put a shirt on that says Zionist and start walking around any of these communities, anywhere, and see what would happen. I dare you. Be a great, you know, a great experiment. Yeah, I didn't think so. And then you have the Arabians, you know, huge Muslim minorities that are gaining political strength, and you got these feckless leaders that are creating, you know, two-tiered justice systems. Just go into England and say one thing bad about a Muslim population, and hear what the Muslim population say over there, and you're getting two very different types of justice, and that's just a taste. So you got an anti-Israel strain in Europe as well. They've never really historically been lovers of Jews themselves. And now in America, you have all that Qatar petrodollars that are just corrupting the youth, and we're seeing that. And then you have the MAGA, who's splitting on this issue. You have these non-interventionist Lindbergh wannabe America first, not only, you know, America first. It's America only. I wish it was America first. It's America only, non-interventionist. They think everything that happens in the Middle East is because of the Mossad and AIPAC in Israel, and they ignore the Qatari billions of dollars that's like makes APAC look like a, I don't know, like a Smurf. Um, and They basically have said every war that's happened in the last 20 years in the Middle East is because of Israel. Like Bush Senior and his chief of staff Baker really had love for Israel. They made Israel outside the coalition, and when Saddam launched his rockets, they begged Israel not to respond, which Israel didn't. And then you had Bush Jr. doing his own thing, and then Afghanistan. And what was Iran doing? The Iran that says it's not our problem. The Iran that basically armed the Iraqi insurgencies with roadside bombs that killed hundreds of Americans, let alone, giving the green light to Hezbollah to blow up the Marine barrack in Lebanon, which resulted into 250 something Marines dying, to calling America pretty much daily throughout its leadership the Great Satan, to building ballistic missiles that go far beyond Israel's borders. Why? Um, and basically see America as the bigger threat. And that's not just from this Ayatollah, but the last Ayatollah and the Ayatollah before that. So, yeah, give me a break. The threat perception that has this being like an Israeli problem. Didn't they just try to kill Trump? Don't they have cells like everywhere in the world? They have a counterfeit operation that's like that counterfeits the U.S. dollar like crazy. They do so much damage to the United States national interest. It's not even funny that somebody who's going to say this is an Israel problem literally has to just blinker out like the mountains of OSINT evidence that is out there. But Israel, it's fine. Again, more glory to Israel. They're going to do what they need to do to protect themselves, and it happens to be protecting them as well. And they're not going to get a thank you for it. If anything, they're going to get a slap on the wrist. But you know what? Israel's creating a new reality in the Middle East. There's no Hezbollah now. Their little attack dog that would have launched thousands of rockets if Israel had done what it did today 2 years ago. And it's changing the region, and it's going to be for the better. And you think these Arab countries are unhappy that Israel's doing one? You think Saudi Arabia is like, oh, the Zionists, they're so happy. They're pissing themselves. They're so happy. Okay? So before you start castigating, just check with the actual regional players what they think. Pushing back the jihad, that's a good thing. And Israel's paving the way. Think hard. Where are you gonna side? I don't really care. Like, I don't think Israel can win the message game, the narrative game. There's just too much bad will out there. There's too many players that don't have any good faith in this argument. They're riddled with bigotry and hate, and specifically Jew hate. And like Goebbels said, you say something long enough, loud enough, and enough times, it's just people believe it. And when they have that kind of mass mega consensus on one side, and you have 9 million to 15 million people who can't even agree. You get an Olmert who is a total corrupted, you know, ex-convict prime minister who has no problem going on media and basically giving all these um, Israel bashers like a propaganda victory. That's always been the case. So we have a free society. We love debate. So you're never going to get that kind of consensus on our side. And then you use it against us as well. It's like, well, even an ex-prime minister said it. Okay, whatever. Let me quote what the Hezbollah leadership has to say. If I was quoting them, or the Hamas leadership, or the Iranian, it'll make us look like a PG movie in a Disney film. Okay, it's ridiculous that you're going to quote Israeli leaders or ex-leaders or Smoltrich what he said. Or it's a game of Fugazi. It's a kabuki. It's kabuki theater. Okay, like, what does Netanyahu say? What is the IDF? What's their protocols? What's the facts on the ground? What is the actual military historians and experts around this looking at it have to say? What does the stats say? how are they put together? What are the profiles of the people involved? Who's a liberal democracy that's building stuff that everybody wants and coming up with technology that are pushing the limits of human knowledge? And who are the retrograde reprobates who tyrannize their people, build fortresses of terror tunnels underneath, use their people like PR drones and sacrifice them on the altar of Moloch because they're godless, even though that's all they say is that they believe in God. And then just profile these. Who would you believe? But one's got a Pallywood distribution superstructure, and the other one can't get their pants on before the lie's already halfway across the globe. And then you got the guys like Piers Morgan, and I don't know, you can throw Candace Owens in there or Dave Smith, who are just numpty talking heads who either getting paid by Qatar or just too stupid to have the real conversations. And I mean it, like really dumb. Like watch, Cam Higby talking to interviewing one of the guys that is from the Liberty, and then watch a Candace Owens. Watch Piers Morgan talk to raving anti-Semite reprobate Belzerian, who spouts for minutes and minutes his anti-Semitic screeds on Talmud, which he knows nothing about, or how he treats like a international lawyer of repute. Won't let her get a word in. This is the kind of thing that we're talking about. You got your Google stats, I got my Google stats, so we have this like asymmetric information warfare. So then it's narrative. One has a tank and one has a rock. And that's how you do it. One uses an Excel spreadsheet. 4,000 innocent people have been killed. Well, who killed them? When were they killed? How do you know they were killed by Israel? These aren't real conversations that are having on the other side. They want the Jewish villain. They got the Jewish villain. They got the photo that lets them see it as a Jewish villain, so they'll use it. BBC and CNN and Al Jazeera, they all run with this stuff. They don't care. They're not good faith actors. They don't care. And again, when you have a vested interest in a certain population, and you have a vested interest, and that population, all they care about is destroying another one, and they elect them and they harbor them and then they celebrate with them 10-7, and then you just say, oh, they're innocent. Are they completely innocent? I'm not saying that the 12-year-old on the street deserves to be killed. Of course not. But is that society completely innocent? Would human history be able to move and progress if we looked at these societies that harbor tyrants and fascistic and totalitarian regimes as just pure cogs and drones, and they have no agency? Human history would never have evolved. There has to be some level of responsibility for having a rocket in your living room, or having a cache of weapons under your kid's bed, or a mosque that has a command and control, dug underneath it. I mean, a society that would allow that to happen in itself and be passive has some responsibility. One that actively voted these people in. There's also what those conversations aren't happening. These are elephants in the room that are being ignored. And so here we are. Israel's the aggressor as they go after a jihadi death cult that's built a ring of proxies of terrorists around it that perpetrated or helped perpetrate 10-7 and have actively thrown, hundreds of ballistic missiles at it, and basically say they want to remove this cancer from the region. So what would you do? What would anybody do? Anybody with sense? But no, they're the aggressors. Israel wants to create a war. Get with the program. I don't mind that there's a lot of screaming. As my grandfather used to tell me, and I really think about this a lot, is I don't mind when the world screams. That's fine. It's when they're silent that's when I get scared. Right? Between 1939 and 1945, quiet. As Jews were tertiated and led to the crematoria. Yeah, that time is over. And Zionism, this beautiful blessing of Jewish independence and self-determination, well, we will protect ourselves, even if we lose the popularity contest. Stand with Israel. That's standing with the right, standing with the light. Have a good day.